Hello everyone, have a nice day. Today we're going to follow Jack as he pushes past fear and exhaustion to find Tutien, even when the night seems determined to swallow every clue. You'll feel every second of his panic, every step into the forest, and the unbearable moment when she's so close, yet can't answer him back. With Uncle Dung by his side, Jack risks everything to cross a dangerous fence and enter a place that feels completely wrong, only to discover Tutien injured, terrified, and unable to speak. If you find this story interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. Jack's flashlight landed on the fence and his world stopped. Barbed wire, rusted, twisted, wrapped around a half-swallowed house like someone had tried to keep the forest out or keep something in. The dot on his phone pulsed right there, right behind that wire. Jack hit the metal with his palm. The sting didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was the name tearing out of his throat. Tutien, it's me, Jack. I'm here. His voice cracked on the last word, turning into something raw, almost ugly. He waited like a man holding his breath underwater. Nothing. No footsteps. No answer. Only the night pressing closer, thick and patient. Uncle Dung stepped up beside him, eyes sharp, scanning the posts, the vines, the way the fence didn't look accidental. "This isn't normal," he said slowly. "Don't climb, listen first." Jack didn't blink. His chest felt too tight to swallow. "She's right there," he whispered, staring at the pulsing dot like it was the only truth left in his life. "She has to be." He shouted again, louder like volume could break distance. "Tutien, if you can hear me, make a sound." Still nothing. Jack's hands started to shake, not from cold, something worse, something that felt like his body finally understood what his mind had been refusing to say. Near, but unable. And it had started hours ago. Earlier that afternoon, the farm had been bright, sun on the leaves, wind in the trees, normal noises that should have comforted him, but Jack couldn't hear any of it over the silence coming from his phone. A call that wouldn't connect, a message that stayed unread, a last scene that didn't change. He paced the yard like a trapped animal, stopping at the gate again and again, staring down the road as if staring harder would force her to appear. He dialed her again. Ring, ring, voicemail. He ended it before the greeting could finish, like if he didn't hear it, it wasn't real. Then he called Uncle Dung. The line picked up. "Jack? Uncle, has Tutien come back? Has anyone seen her?" Jack's voice came too fast, too sharp, like panic trying to disguise itself as urgency. A pause. Jack hated that pause. "No," Uncle Dung said, careful. "Not since the day before yesterday. I asked around. Nobody saw her pass." "She wouldn't just disappear," Jack snapped, then faltered, the words turning into a plea. "She wouldn't leave without telling me." "I know." Uncle Dung's tone was hardened, steady, practical. "Tell me the last time you spoke." "Yesterday afternoon, she said she was going to harvest and—" Jack swallowed hard. "And then nothing." "Don't do anything reckless," Uncle Dung warned. "I'm coming." But Jack's mind wasn't waiting, it was sprinting. Uncle Dung arrived quickly, not with panic, but with that serious look of a man who'd learned to respect the forest. "Track her," he said immediately, "if you can." Jack froze, like the idea had been hidden in plain sight. His fingers fumbled across the screen, sweaty and clumsy. "The map is loaded." A dot appeared. Jack's face drained. Uncle Dung leaned in. "Where?" Jack zoomed in once, then again. His voice came out hoarse. "In the forest." The dot didn't move. It just sat there, deep in green emptiness, like a heartbeat refusing to change. Uncle Dung's hand landed on Jack's shoulder. "We go together. Flashlights, water, mark the path. The forest can turn you around." Jack nodded too fast, already grabbing supplies like his body had switched into survival mode. When they stepped into the trees, dusk was fading. The air sharpened. Shadows thickened. Jack's flashlight cut a thin, trembling tunnel ahead, but darkness kept swallowing the edges. He called her name again and again, voice breaking a little more each time. And when they finally found the fence, when Jack saw the house behind this, hope surged so violently it hurt. Then the beam caught something fluttering on the barbed wire, a strip of fabric. Jack reached through carefully, ignoring the scrape as metal bit his fingers. He pulled it free. He recognized it. His breath collapsed. "She was here," he whispered, like admitting it made it worse. Uncle Dung's eyes narrowed. "Jack, this place is wrong." Jack slammed his palm against the fence again, shaking, tears finally burning his eyes. "Tutien, M-oi, please, just one sound." And somewhere inside that dark house, a soft scrape answered, too faint to be a voice, but too real to be nothing. The scrape came again, thin, frightened, like someone trying to move without being heard. Jack's throat tightened so hard it hurt. "Tutien, I heard you. I'm coming." Uncle Dung caught his wrist. "Not through the fence. Look for a safe point. Slow." Jack's eyes burned, but he forced himself to breathe. He swept the flashlight along the posts, the wire, the vines. There, near the back corner, one section had sunk into soft earth. The barbs were still there, but the tension was looser, like the forest had been chewing at it for years. Uncle Dung pulled out a small multi-tool. "Hold the light. Don't touch the barbs." Jack nodded, hands trembling as he aimed the beam. Uncle Dung worked quietly, twisting and prying, making a gap just wide enough for a body to slide through. "First you," Uncle Dung whispered, "but keep low." Jack didn't answer. He dropped to the ground and pushed himself through, feeling the wire catch his jacket. A barb grazed his shoulder. He didn't even flinch. He stood inside the yard. The air felt wrong here. Too still, too cold, like the house was holding its breath. "Tu Tien," he called, softer now, as if loudness might scare her deeper into silence. "It's Jack. I'm right here. I'm coming to you." He reached the door. It wasn't locked. That scared him more than a lock ever could. Jack pushed it open. The hinges signed. His flashlight spilled into a room that smelled of damp wood and old smoke. The floorboards were uneven. Dust floated in the beam like slow snow. And then he saw her. Tu Tien was curled near the wall, half hidden behind a broken table, her hair tangled, her face pale under grime. One arm was drawn tight against her chest, like it hurt to let go. Her legs were bent wrong, not grotesque, just wrong enough to make Jack's stomach drop. Her eyes found him. They widened. Her lips parted. No sound came out. Jack's knees hit the floor so hard the impact shot up his bones. He crawled to her like he was afraid she'd vanish if he stood. Tutien, baby. His voice broke on the second word. He reached for her face, then stopped, terrified of hurting her. Look at me. It's me. I'm here. I've got you. Tutien tried to speak again. Her throat moved. Her mouth shaped something like his name. He was sure of it, but nothing reached the air. Her eyes filled with tears instead, hot and desperate. Jack's chest cracked open. He folded over her carefully, forehead pressed to her temple, shaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered, words spilling out like blood. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner. I'm here now. Do you hear me? I'm here." Uncle Dung stepped in behind him, flashlight steady, voice controlled. "Jack, check her breathing, then we move." Jack forced himself to focus, hands hovering, not knowing where to touch. He brushed her wrist gently. Pulse, weak, but there. He leaned close to her lips, felt a faint breath against his skin. "She's alive," he choked. "She's alive." Tutien's fingers twitched and found his sleeve. She gripped it like it was the last rope on earth. Uncle Dung crouched. "Can you stand?" he asked her softly. Tutien tried. Her shoulders jerked, her face tightened in pain. She couldn't lift herself. Her body refused. Jack swallowed a sob so sharp it tasted metallic. Don't try," he told her, voice shaking, trying to sound strong for her. "Just hold on to me, okay? Just hold on." He slid one arm behind her back, the other under her knees, moving like she was made of glass. The moment he lifted her, Tutien's breath hitched. Her hand clutched his collar, desperate, silent. Jack stood barely. He took one step, then another. His arms shook, his shoulders screaming, but he didn't stop. Not now. Not when she was finally in his arms. Uncle Dung guided him through the dark yard, whispering directions. "Slow. Watch your footing. The wire is close." They slipped back through the gap. Jack felt the barb snag his shirt again, but he shielded Tutien with his body, taking the scratch like it was nothing. Outside the fence, the forest swallowed them with its cold breath. Jack kept walking, kept holding her, kept listening for the sound she couldn't give. And even in her silence, he understood exactly what she was saying, because her tears were warm on his neck, and her grip never let go.
Rách gọi điện không có ai trả lời, sự hoảng loạn biến thành hành động khi anh lần theo tín hiệu điện thoại của Tutien sâu vào trong rừng. Cùng với chú Dung, anh lần theo vị trí di chuyển đến một hàng rào dây thép gai rỉ sét bao quanh một ngôi nhà đổ nát im lặng. Sách hét lên tên cô, trong khi cuối cùng anh cũng nghe thấy một tiếng cọ sét yếu ớt từ bên trong, bằng chứng cho thấy cô gần đây nhưng không thể trả lời. Một tay của khe hở nhỏ trên hàng rào và lẻn vào sân, cảm nhận được sự nguy hiểm trong sự tĩnh lặng bất thường. Bên trong, Jack tìm thấy Tutien nằm co quắp trên sàn nhà. Cô nhận ra anh, cố gắng nói nhưng không có tiếng nào phát ra, chỉ có nước mắt và ánh mắt tuyệt vọng. Jack kiểm tra mạch hơi thở yếu ớt của cô rồi cẩn thận nâng cô lên, che chắn cho cô khỏi dây thép gai. Anh cõng cô vào màn đêm, ôm chặt lấy cô khi cô lặng lẽ bám lấy anh.